Welcome back. Today we're going to attempt to repair my Samsung Galaxy Note 10.1 inch 2014 edition. Yes, I know it's a long name. What happened is I picked this up to use it the other day. It worked fine all day. At a certain point when I opened up the little flap here, the screen in the background had a dark band right here and here, and I don't mean dark as in like missing pixels. I mean like literally like there was a tube out. Like that's pretty much the only way I can describe it. Think of it like rows of lights and just, well, yeah, you get the idea. So I said, well, what the heck's going on with that? It's not like I dropped it or anything recently. I mean, obviously this thing's taken tumbles. I mean, everyone drops their devices at some point, but when I restarted it, the screen didn't come up at all. But after a few minutes, I noticed it was making noise when you push the buttons and stuff. And if you held it in the light just right, you can see the image on there. And then I said, that's got to be something with the backlighting. I mean, of course, that makes the most sense, right? So I just did a quick poke around online, and yeah, it's a thing. If you type in the name of this, Samsung Galaxy, yada, 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 blank screen or black screen, you'll come up with quite a few videos, and hopefully that's how you came across this one. Explaining how to fix it, and a lot of them were very short, so if this is longer than theirs, I'm sorry, but I have to explain things my way. But I'm going to use the iFixit tool set here. This is just what I have on hand, but there's a variety of different spudger tools. There's even the guitar picks here. I've heard people say that they've used these too, but the idea is we're going to take this and separate the halves. Let me take it out the back case here first, but I'm going to take those tools and I'm going to go in this edge here from the front. I'm going to pry it all off, and that's going to take the back panel off. Now it seems like the back panel and the side panels here are all connected to each other, and you can see they got this like fake stitching. It looks like leather, but it's not. It's indeed plastic. And there's your connector here. There's SD slot over here, which I already took the card out, and the pen obviously will slide that out. And then on the top up here, there's the IR sensor. There's some buttons here, and back to the other side here. Oh yeah, there are some buttons here too. So we'll have to be careful once we get to there. But this all just snaps out. In fact, just from it being old now, you can kind of just wiggle it a little bit and you can feel where it's going to pry apart. So what I intend on doing is put this camera into time lapse, because that's what most of the other people did. And I'm just going to time lapse me just going through the process of breaking the seal around here gently, and then we're going to pop it off and look at the back side of it. And the idea is we're going to find the connector for the screen and the backlighting circuitry, which should connect this front panel and then come across the back here and then connect into the main board, which it's either at the top or the bottom. I'm not sure exactly where, but we'll take a look at that once we get inside here. All right, now I got up to the point. It doesn't look like I got pretty far, but I kind of did. Just running this tool along the edge there just allowed me to get that broken apart just a little bit. See? I could separate that, and that's all I needed to do was just pop that out just a little bit. It seemed like I had the guitar picks in there and they were kind of popping all over. What I was trying to do with those was just keep them in place, keep this from popping back in once I popped it out, but that proved to not really work that well. So I just decided to use this tool here, which you can see has a fine little edge on it, and I just ran that around here and everything popped loose. So you just kind of work it in and like a crowbar almost. So I'll go ahead and just go around the case there the rest of the way and just pop that off gently. Okay, down to the last edge right here. Got the other three sides off, and it's not that hard. You just be very slow and careful about it and you'll get it out. All right, and here we are, and that was it. We were able to separate those two halves really easily. So we can flip this over and take a look at the guts inside here while we're here. And these are the two ribbons that come down off of the screen on the other side here. This long silver device here, this is actually the battery. So you can see that's quite a large battery. And then obviously this is the control up here. The entire circuit up here is the brains of the operation. And then any other connectors are going to come over here from the other side as well and connect in. So we're going to check these connectors here. This is where our issue is going to lie. But the first thing I'm going to do is disconnect the battery up here, which is this piece here. And there's a piece of this tape here we'll have to peel off first so we can pull it out the way. And then we'll fiddle around here a little bit and just make sure these connectors are okay. Now if you look, there's a little black strip across the top of these. That's actually hinged, so this will flip upward and this cable can come out. So we're going to disconnect both those cables. We're going to reseat them in there, make sure everything's okay. All right, to get that battery connector off, you just use a little tool like this. Plastic tools are best because you don't want to scratch anything in here, but you can just slide it up underneath here and it should pop right off. And that's just the safety feature, just to make sure you don't accidentally short anything out. And these little connectors over here, you can just flip them up with your fingernail. They do have some tension on them there, see? And they come right up. And then you can pull these connectors right out like that. Hopefully this is going to fix this. There could be other things wrong with it. Perhaps the actual backlighting is bad, but this is always a good start. So I'm just going to reset these in here. You can see the connector kind of flap down on me, because once there's no connector in there, there's nothing to cause tension on it. But once you line it up and then push it down, it should lock into place. So I'm going to do that with both of these, reconnect this battery, and we're going to test it out and make sure it works. Upon closer inspection, this cable here actually runs down and connects to the charging and USB jack down the bottom here, and that makes sense by the number of conductors that are actually in this. So this could actually be disregarded. So if you got to this step and you disconnected this, it's not going to really do you much. This is the one we're actually looking at here, because it does actually say LCD cable. So that's definitely the one that's controlling the main screen on the front side. Okay, now that those are reseated, I'm going to reseat the battery just by pushing that into place like that. And then we should be able to flip this around, and the power button is this little disc up here. If I push that in, hopefully it powers up and we see something. And there we go. So that's great. So that's exactly what was wrong. That connector was loose, and it was causing this to obviously not light up. I can see clearly now my backlight is on. So let me flip this back over up, and you can see my other cable came out here. So I'm going to have to repower this back down again and just make sure that's nice and tight. Don't forget to replace the tape. I just have this over here off to the side. We'll just put that back over that connector there. And you can see just from disturbing this a little bit, there's a little loop. So if you handle this, just be careful that you don't slip your hand underneath. That's actually what happened when I flipped this over. My hand slipped underneath here and pulled this connector out. So you should definitely mind your surroundings when you're working inside these machines, of course, but sometimes when you work on these devices and you try to record them at the same time and make it nice for the camera, you have some issues with certain things. But at least I know it's working now, so that's good. And I'm going to go ahead and put this back together. Now there is one piece that fell out in the back here, and it's this little bracket. So I'm going to have to figure out where that goes first before I put this together. So I'll take a look around now and see where that possibly could go. Alright, figured out where it goes. Right up here in this spot, you can see there's these little channels. What this is actually designed to do is it's a detent for the pen. And you can see the pen slides up here, and there's nothing to hold it in. So this particular thing sits right up here like that. So if you open your case and this little white piece falls out, that's where it goes. And you can see that little hook here actually grabs that pen once you slip it in, because there's a little line in the barrel here that engages in. So I'll probably have to put a drop of super glue or something on here just to hold in spot before I actually reassemble this. But I did some poking around here just to you know, complete this video. We can show some certain things here. Now this is modular, so if you need to repair anything in here, it could all be disconnected, which is sweet. So your camera up here connects over here to this little board where there's a controller circuit, and then it just connects right here to the main board. And you can see there's other connectors over here connecting other peripheral devices like the IR sensor and that kind of stuff. And all this can be replaced. The battery can be replaced. There's some screws along the edges over here that can you can remove to get that out. Even the speakers, there's a little screw up here in the corner. It looks like another one possibly down here, but if you kind of angle in over here, you can see there's a couple connectors in the corner here. So it seems like if you undo this connector, somehow the speaker pops right out. And there may even be parts of the board underneath there too. There's definitely a connector here for something. There's a Wi-Fi, a couple little pins over here. They actually engage on the other side of the case where there's the antenna. And you know, you have other things over here. That main cable I said that comes down here also connects over to these other devices. I believe this is the microphone over here, and this must be for the home buttons, because this wraps around to the front, and you can see there is the home button, and there's also the touch buttons over there too. And it looks like even the headphone jack up here, there's a couple screws, and that comes right out. Now that connector is going to be behind this speaker, so you'll have to disconnect that. But everything is located on this main circuit over here. Your devices, you know, if this had cellular or anything like that, they're going to be underneath one of these cans, as well as your Wi-Fi. That's why that's over here. You can see that's where the antenna comes in. The main processor may be underneath one of these too. There is an Atmel chip here, and there's also a vacant chip over here. This may be for who knows what. I mean, there's several iterations of this board. Interestingly enough, I found over here, this is your SD slot, but there's also another slot over here. Now I'm assuming that would be for a SIM chip, but I can't really tell if there's actually contacts in there now. So that'd be pretty interesting to see if they actually did put a SIM chip there, but the only difference is whether or not the case actually has the little door over here to access it. Well, let me get this popped back together to make sure everything's working right. Now that's just going to be a matter of putting this back in and just snapping it back into place, so there really isn't any sense of showing that footage. But I'll do that, and I'll test that one final time, obviously, before I actually put it together, just to make sure nothing came loose again, and I'll be right with you. Alright, before I put it together, I tested it out and noticed that the button over here isn't lighting up when you activate the screen, so I'll have to make sure the connectors are right inside. Putting this back in is really simple. You just kind of roll around the edge over here and kind of just snap it into place. And as you're doing it, you're kind of pulling it into place from the bottom up, if that makes sense. The tabs are just going into position. But as I work my way around here, you'll hear it click in. And that's pretty much it. And as you can see, the buttons do light up, both. So I fixed that as well. And everything works as it should. So with that, I want to thank you for watching. If you find these videos interesting, you can click over here to subscribe, and there'll also be a couple other videos over here you can click and check out as well. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next video.